Now, catching Red Bull is a task that could be one of the most difficult to achieve in the last few decades. Having won all but one race in 2023, the Milton Keynes squad will undoubtedly have a head start going into 2024. And right now, it seems each of its rivals has a problem. Ferrari, McLaren, Mercedes and Aston Martin are predicted to be the ones fighting Red Bull, but they have problems and it's not to do with the car. What's the problem with Mercedes? Let's start with the most recent champion not named Red Bull, and that's Mercedes. After an unprecedented 8 constructors' titles in a row, Mercedes suffered a dramatic loss of form with the W13 in 2022. But at the same time, the highly thought of George Russell arrived in the team. In his first season at Brackley, he beat Lewis Hamilton on points, but then was thoroughly outclassed in 2023. Despite this, it's clear that Mercedes have one of the strongest driver lineups on the grid, but that's meant problems for them in the past. Strong driver lineups inevitably create major stress for their teams, and the Hamilton-Nico Rosberg partnership was a clear example of this. Following that explosive period, Mercedes welcomed in their relatively benign partnership of Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas, with the Finn an able replacement. He may not have had the speed of Rosberg, but was far less confrontational and more than good enough to get the points needed for Mercedes to win the title year after year. As to what kind of driver Russell will be, currently that's unknown. No doubt the relationship between him and Hamilton lacks the white-hot intensity of Hamilton and Rosberg, but it's definitely more comfortable for the 7-time world champion than having Bottas beside him was. It's a rivalry that for now seems very friendly, but keep a close eye on this one because we could have the second war of the Silver Arrows in the near future. What's the problem with Ferrari? Of all the teams on the grid, it is at Ferrari where you'll perhaps find the most evenly balanced driver pairing. Since Carlos Sainz arrived in 2021, the pair have traded finishing higher than one another, and although Charles Leclerc is generally considered to have the higher ceiling, right now he's failing to find the consistency to reach that. But Ferrari's problems are less to do with ability and more to do with contracts. As of right now, both of the Ferrari pair are out of contract at the end of the season. Compare this to the other top contenders and it's a unique situation. What should worry a Ferrari fan is how long negotiations, particularly with Leclerc, have taken. For his worth, team boss Fred Vasseur has tried to calm it down and most recently said this: "We're not in a rush to extend the deals, but have started discussions. Mercedes did it in August. We're not in a rush at all. This season, I was expecting to do it before the end of the year, but the season was a huge one and we have started the discussion. But again, we're not in a rush." But should it not be a concern to be potentially without a driver this time next year? 2023 is unique in that 14 of the 20 drivers will be out of contract at the end of the season, meaning we could have one of the silliest F1 silly seasons of all time, so could Ferrari be left empty-handed if they don't act soon? As for their ability, Leclerc continues to show he is Ferrari's fastest qualifying driver, and perhaps the fastest of all in F1, but points aren't handed out on a Saturday. After growing frustrated with the team under Mattia Binotto, Leclerc has returned to form under Vasseur, but continues to make consistent mistakes which derail any kind of momentum. Another problem for him is supremacy in the team. Think of the other top teams and it's easy to see which driver is the senior one, and therefore the one to get first pick of strategy. But at Ferrari, it's much more evenly spread out, which doesn't work in Leclerc's favour. There is a sense that Leclerc lacks capacity to force those situations to his own advantage, and maybe also lacks the ruthless edge to his personality that ensures he gets first dibs. Take Max Verstappen for example. Can you imagine him ever accepting to have the worst of two strategies? But the two drivers do work well together. If Leclerc is known for his raw talent, Sainz is known for his smart racecraft, which was best demonstrated in the latter stages of his win in Singapore in 2023. Many would have thought Leclerc would have been able to blow Sainz out of the water, but after 3 years together, it's clear Sainz is someone who simply doesn't go away. But can a situation like this ever produce a world champion though? It's a question both Leclerc and Ferrari will be asking of themselves. What's the problem with McLaren? When you think of McLaren's driver pairing, one word comes to mind: potential. With Lando Norris at 24 and Oscar Piastri at 22, they're the youngest pairing on the grid, but don't let their age fool you. 2023 was a monumental year for McLaren, and one which saw them go from backmarkers to podium pacers within the space of a few weeks. The turnaround the team managed was one of the biggest in F1 history, made all the more impressive with a cost cap in place. And once they had a car that could compete, both Norris and Piastri delivered. Norris may have taken more podiums and finished above the young Australian in the standings, but it was Piastri who won the Qatar sprint, something Norris has never managed to do. Their relationship is another one to keep a close eye on. McLaren made the $17 million decision to dump Daniel Ricciardo in favour of Piastri, and that decision has already been vindicated, but Norris may have expected an easier ride with a rookie beside him. Piastri has been anything but that. He has hit the ground running and produced a rookie season not bettered since Hamilton in 2007, but at the same time, he was happy to play second fiddle. When McLaren only had the upgrade for one car, it was Norris who got it. When McLaren needed to give one driver the better strategy, it was Norris who got it. Piastri, accepting he was a rookie to an established F1 star, agreed with this, but there is no guarantee he will do so in year 2. Team boss Zach Brown, though, has backed McLaren to see any tension coming. The American said, "We've all seen from our experience in Formula 1, you can see train crashes coming. You don't know exactly what the team bosses do, but you kind of sit there and go, I'd be kind of getting on that now. And it strikes me from the outside looking in, sometimes you've seen things escalate and it doesn't appear the team's jumped in soon enough. So after Monza, which is the first and only time they touch, we had a very healthy, there was no sweat, conversation. And don't wait till it happens a second or third time. I think having once driven, not as fast as either of these two guys, I think helps understand the psychology of the driver and when and where and how to approach, because I've seen you can approach drivers at the wrong time and you can actually make it worse." What's the problem with Aston Martin? Driver tension is not something you think of when it comes to Aston Martin, with one of the seat holders related to the team owner. From the moment he signed, Fernando Alonso began to big up Lance Stroll's performances in a way that suggests he knew who was signing his paycheck, but the Canadian was off the pace in 2023. Despite an electric start, Aston Martin would finish 5th in the Constructors, and that was certainly not the fault of Alonso. His 8 podiums were the most of any non-Red Bull driver, and if the Aston Martin is competitive once again, he will no doubt produce similar results in 2024. The question is though, how far can Aston Martin go if they have a passenger in their team? Stroll failed to finish on the podium in 2023, and it's because of him Aston Martin were overtaken by McLaren. Any other driver and their time in F1 would certainly have been up, but because it's Stroll, no one really knows what the future holds for him. Lawrence Stroll bankrolling his son was fine when they were a midfield runner, but the Canadian billionaire needs to realise some tough decisions need to be made if they have real hopes of fighting for a title. Toppling Red Bull is an unbelievably hard task, given there are no regulation changes between now and 2026. And with Max Verstappen in the form of his life, he too will take some stopping. But each of the competitors have problems to deal with, and whoever navigates that the best will be the ones to take the fight to Red Bull. As always, thanks for watching this video, and let us know which driver pairing you think is the strongest. In the meantime, like the video and make sure you subscribe so you never miss a release here on the DRS Straight.